What's up guys, Sal here. So earlier this week, Sony announced the world's first 48 megapixel camera sensor dedicated for smartphones that could take photography and videography to the next level. We also have our first look at the upcoming flagship from Sony, the Xperia XZ3, which could feature this camera sensor. But the question is, can this save Sony mobile division? We've heard recently that Sony's mobile division will be shutting down all of its operations and pulling out of offices in Turkey, the Middle East and Africa by October. This certainly doesn't mean good news for Sony. A major company like this pulling out of areas can only mean that sales are failing. Sony's own analysis of its mobile department's performance has laid the blame purely on its inability to improve its lineup fast enough and seems to presume that falling smartphone sales are the outcome of its own failings. Looking at the wider market, it's clear that Sony's mobile division no longer has the sort of oomph it may have once commanded. The IDC's quarterly report for the first part of 2018 failed to mention Sony's phones at all, and it's obvious that the Xperia brand is somewhere south of big names in the business in terms of sales. Sony had been sluggish to adapt to the new trend of trimming bezels on smartphones, and I had originally hoped that 2018 would see a design refresh that would put the looks of the Sony Xperia brand back up with some of the best looking phones out there. Alas, while the redesign happened, it wasn't exactly what I was hoping for. The much awaited ambient flow design hasn't hugely changed the dated look of the Xperia smartphones. While phones like the Xperia XZ2 and the upcoming XZ3 with that behemoth of a camera are very impressive, the still rather chunky bezel will let it down, at least in my eyes. That said, it's tough to pin down exactly what Sony's problem is. It cannot be said that the Xperia lineup lacks cutting-edge features, performance or media capabilities. Sony has scored many firsts over the years, including a 4K HDR display, 960fps slow-motion video capture and serious waterproofing. Instead, it seems like a combination of a tired and dated looking design, simple issues like no CDMA carrier support in the United States, and an overall lack of a coherent marketing strategy are the cause of much of Sony's problems. So that being said, what do you think about this? What Sony needs to do to put its mobile division back on the track? Do let me know in the comments and I'll see you all tomorrow. Peace out.
Okay.